Good evening. Due to the COVID-19 emergency, tonight's Committee of Adjustment hearing is being held by video conference and live streaming video at town's live stream webpage at oakville.ca. This is a hearing to consider applications for a minor variance and consent held under the authority of the Planning Act. Please keep in mind that the intent of this process is to review the application that is before the committee, listen to the evidence, and then make a decision. This process is not intended to be used to resolve any concerns or disputes that may exist between the town, individuals, or organizations. This is a hearing. If a request for a deferral is made and the committee grants such a request, the applicant or authorized agent must contact the Secretary Treasurer to schedule a new hearing date. In order to conduct an effective and efficient electronic hearing, we have adopted the following process. If you are watching the live stream on this hearing on oakville.ca, and if you wish to speak to an item on the agenda, you can call 905-815-6095. Again, that is 905-815-6095. The phone number is also posted on the screen below the live stream page at oakville.ca. Staff will be then standing by to take your call and will give you further instructions to join the video conferencing. You will be asked to provide your name and address for the record. When the chair of the committee polls for interested parties, the Secretary Treasurer will unmute you when it is your time to speak. The applicant or agent will be given the opportunity to briefly explain the committee, the basis of the application, and answer any questions that may arise. A maximum of 5 minutes will be provided for this presentation. You will need to state your full name and address for the record, and any submissions beyond the 5 minutes will be at the discretion of the committee. All delegations must also state their name and address for the record, and a 5-minute maximum will be provided for each presentation. All remarks and questions are directed to the chair, and any submissions beyond the 5 minutes will be at the discretion of the committee. The applicant or agent will then be provided with a further 5 minutes to respond to the comments made by any interested parties and answer any questions from the committee members. If the applicant or agent has any concerns found in the staff report, particularly with any proposed conditions, this is your opportunity to advise us. The matter will then be taken into committee for a decision, and this will mark the end of all discussions. Any person desiring a notice of decision for application must provide a written request, preferably through email, to the Secretary Treasurer. Please note that you must make a written request in order for you to be included in the list that is used by the local planning appeal tribunal for the giving of any subsequent notice of appeal. Written notice of the committee's decision will be mailed no later than 10 days for minor variances and 15 days for consent applications. If the applicant or agent or any other person who has filed a written request for such notice, if you do not agree with the committee's decision, you may appeal this to the local planning appeal tribunal, and the last day to appeal the decision will be noted on the decision. If no appeal is received within the prescribed time frame, the decision of the committee becomes final and binding, and the Secretary Treasurer will then notify the applicant and anyone who has received a copy of the decision through written correspondence. People participating in the hearing are to be courteous to, respectful of the members of committee, town staff, and other people participating in the electronic hearing. Tonight's electronic hearing is being video recorded and available for future viewing at oakville.ca. Thank you. We do not have any regrets this evening. Do I have any declaration of pecuniary interests? Mr. Talowski?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I'm going to declare a conflict similar to 2 weeks ago. Items 8, 9, and 10 on tonight's agenda. I was involved in the approvals of the subject subdivision, and the applicant has a business relationship with my company.
Very well, thank you, Mr. Talowski. That's CAD 094, 095, and 096. Noted. Are there any other pecuniary interests that I should take note of? I see none. Very well. Ms. Secretary Treasurer, do we have any requests for deferral at this time?
Yes, I believe we're going to have 3, and I have promoted them to panelist. I believe we're looking at a referral on item 1, item 3, and item 6.
Okay. So I'll let you bring them in. Are you going to bring them in order, or?
They're all 3 there, so if we want to start with 1035 Pine Grove Road, I believe it's Mr. Van Keulen who is here to speak to the deferral.
Okay, very well. Good evening, Mr. Van Keulen. Are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Very well.
So through you, Madam Chair, we wish to defer the application based on the comments we received on October 9th, Friday, from planning, and we wish to work with the planning department to resolve some of the issues and do our best to bring everything down as much as possible.
That's great. Thank you very much for your submission. Is there any comments on this request? Okay, all those in support of the deferral? Okay. Your application has been deferred. Thank you. You'll see the Secretary Treasurer when you are ready to submit again.
Thank you.
Very well. So the next item should be 1051 Pearson Drive, CAV 089.
Good evening. This is Nader Rawi from Professional Floor Plans. I am the agent and designer. Would like to request a deferral based on 3 or 4 objection letters. We have 11 neighbors supporting the application, but we were surprised to find some of the neighbors are against. So we'd like to reach out with them and solve their concerns before we move ahead.
Very well. Thank you, Mr. Arawi. Is there a discussion on this recommendation to defer? All those in support? Okay. The application has been deferred.
Thank you.
Thank you. And next is CAV 092 at 2343 Khalsa Road.
Hi, Madam Chair. My name is Michelle Charco, and I'm the agent on behalf of the owner, Crystal Homes. The reason we're requesting the deferral is because one of the conditions wants to tie the location of the proposed pool to the plans that we filed in May 2020. However, this is kind of a moving target because it's an ongoing active site plan application. And so my understanding is right now that the developer, because we're still in the resubmission process, that pool location might shift a few feet here or there. And so just out of abundance of caution, we want to get you guys the latest plans to tie that condition so that way there's no issues in the future.
Very well, that's very much appreciated. All those in support of a deferral? Okay, the application has been deferred. Thank you, Ms. Michelle.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Madam Chair?
Yes, I'm listening.
I just wanted to note, in case there's any attendees for the 3 applications that were deferred, that there will be no further hearing for those applications.
Do we have any attendees that are waiting?
Yes, we do. So I just wanted to, if you could clarify that the applications will not be moving forward tonight.
Okay, so for everyone that is listening to our live stream right now, application CAV 087 at 1035 Pine Grove Road, and application CAV 089 at 1051 Pearson Drive, and application CAV 092 at 2340 Khalsa Gate. Those 3 applications will not be moving forward. Now, I do have some letters of opposition. I don't have anything for Pine Grove, but I will make a note that if Mr. and Derek and Ms. Stefani Spindlow, or Terry and Shyla Branch, or Martha Lennon are here for application 1051 Pearson Drive, this application will be coming back at a later date, so your letters of opposition are reserved, and you'll be able to get another chance to speak to the application once a new submission has been made, and perhaps at that time your concerns will have been addressed. With respect to application CAV 092 of 2020 at 2343 Khalsa Gate. I do have one email of opposition from Ms. Camilla Cleveland, and I do note if she is online watching or is an attendee waiting to speak to this application, that this application will not be heard. As you heard, the agent will be submitting new plans to ensure that the positions of the pools are tied in with the correct set of plans as per the developer. I hope that addresses everyone's concern. If you are an attendee and you choose to remain online to listen, you're more than welcome to. If not, you can exit the phone queue, and we will have you back at a later date when the applications come back, should you choose to submit a request to be a part of the attendees once again. I hope that covers it, Ms. Hello? Ms. McRae?
Yes, that seems to have, everybody seems to have taken note of your explanation. Thank you very much.
Okay, very well. Is there anyone else that is on queue that I should take note of?
Not at this time.
Okay, very well. So we'll move to the next item in our agenda, which is application CAV 088 of 2020 at 2244 Adirondack Trail. This is a proposed construction of a pool cabana accessory structure. Who do we have here waiting to speak to this application?
The agent, Mr. Todd Hawley.
Very well. While he logs on, because I don't see him on my screen yet, I will read the numbers again. The application that we are dealing with at this present moment is CAV 088 of 2020 at 2244 Adirondack Trail. If you would like to speak to this application, the phone number to call is 905-815-6095. Again, the number is 905-815-6095. And the number is also shared at the live stream page at oakville.ca. Staff will be taking your call and providing you with further instruction on how to join the video conference. Okay. So. Is this Mr. Todd Hawley?
Yes, I'm actually the contractor. We're building the cabana, but Raj Patel was speaking for the application. The homeowner was speaking for the application. I was just standing by in case there's any questions.
So are you both online right now? Because I only see one caller.
I don't see him.
Sorry,
okay,
he's just been promoted now. He should be there now.
He texted me, said he was waiting.
Okay.
Hi there, it's the homeowner. Sorry, it's Raj and Debjani Patel from 2244 Adirondack Trail.
Hello, Ms. Patel. Okay, so we do note that you have letters of support from 12 of your neighbors for the pool cabana. Did you submit a presentation for staff to put on our screen, or you will just speak to it?
No presentation, we can just speak to it.
Okay, go ahead.
So my name is Debjani Biswas, 2244 Adirondack Trail. We submitted a minor variance requesting a gazebo to be placed in our backyard. And the minor variance request is for the gazebo height to be 3.2 meters in height. And we're on a side lot, so the maximum allowable height is 2.5 meters. And the other minor variance we're requesting pertaining to the gazebo is a minimum separation distance to our dwelling. So the required distance is minimum of 2 meters. We're requesting a distance less than that. As you mentioned, we have 12 letters of support, and we don't have any opposition to putting the gazebo in. And we've got, along our side property line, we've got cedars that are about 12 feet long along the entire property line, which will present privacy for both us as homeowners and as for our neighbors as well.
Okay, very well. We see your drawings here. Are there any questions of Mr. and Mrs. Patel? Go ahead, Ms. Murray.
Through you, Madam Chair, not so much as a question, but for the balance of the public that may be tuning in, could staff please put the submission on up for viewing? Thank you.
Patty, how come they can't? I'm the only one they can't see.
Sorry, it'll just be a moment. When they're not submitting an application, we actually don't have anything at the ready.
Right.
So it'll just take a moment to try and get it. Just bear with us and we're working on it.
Okay.
No, am I? Okay. I'm just gonna go sit.
Can you mute yourself because the movement is echoing? Thank you.
I'm trying to get to my coffee.
No problem.
Did you need me to speak to it at all, or?
Actually, if town staff can provide the same picture that was with the signed letters from the neighbors, I think that paints a better picture. But if we don't have it, then you can speak to this one.
Okay, I think it was there. If you scroll down, keep going.
There,
this. Yep. So you can. This is the one. So yes. Along the bottom. So on the just assuming that the east side is on the right hand side of the page. That's the street side. That's Adirondack Trail, and you can see on the bottom and right hand side, that's the gazebo placement. And then so the request for that gazebo is to be 3.2 meters as opposed to 2.5 for maximum height on a side lot property. And the distance, I don't know if you can quite see, from the corner of our home to the corner of the gazebo, we're requesting a less than 2 meter separation distance. And it is an open gazebo, so there's more than sufficient room to walk, to pass by. And our choice to put the gazebo in this location is we wanted the pool to be as far away from the side side street lot from a safety perspective.
Very well, thank you. Are there any further questions of Mr. and Mrs. Patel? I see none. Is there anyone standing by to speak to the application, Ms. McRae?
Not at this time.
Okay, very well then. At this time, we can move to the a motion. Who would like to move a motion? Thank you, Mr. Flemington. Go ahead, sir. Yes, yeah.
Madam Chair, having reviewed the applicant's written submission, as well as the town's written staff report, which I do note is in favor of the application. Also, having taken into account the comments presented by the applicant this evening, as well as noting that there were 12 letters of support for the application and no letters in opposition of the application, I would like to make a motion in support of the application as applied for, noting that it does meet all 4 tests of the Planning Act. And I would like to add the 2 conditions that the pool cabana be built in general accordance with the submitted site plan dated 7/12/2020 and elevations drawing dated 8/29/2020. I would also like to include our standard condition that the approval expires 2 years from the date of the decision if a building permit has not been issued for the proposed construction.
Very well, thank you, Mr. Flemington. Is there a discussion on this recommendation? Ms. Murray?
Just a comment, if I may, through you, Madam Chair, to our applicants and our owners. Congratulations for the number of letters of support. It's really great to see when you are able to speak and work with your neighbors and have them understand what the project is and what it means to them. So congratulations and thank you for the efforts.
Great, thank you. Thanks.
Any further comments or discussion on this recommendation? Okay, I see none. All those in support? Okay, the application has been approved. None opposed. Thank you.
Great,
have a good
thank
night.
you. Thanks, you
Thank
too.
you very
Bye.
much. You.
Okay, application CAV 090 of 2020 at 3300 Lakeshore Road West. Anyone who'd like to speak to this application should call 905-815-6095. Again, the number is 905-815-6095. The phone number is also posted at the screen of the live stream at oakville.ca. Staff will be standing by to take your call and you'll be given further instructions to join the video conferencing. Again, the application that is before us is CAV 090 of 2020 at 330 Lakeshore Road West. Who do we have standing by to speak to this application, Ms. McRae?
We have Arlene Beaumont and Eleanor Falbo.
Okay, they're both representing the owner?
That is my understanding, yes.
Okay. Ladies? Okay, I see Miss Arlene Beaumont with us. Miss Eleanor Falbo, are you present or not yet? Okay, I see you. Very well. You can unmute yourselves. Who will be speaking to this application?
I will be.
Okay. Very well. Go ahead, Ms. Beaumont.
Thank you. I'm appearing for Bill Outred this evening. We are the agents for the owners of 3300 Lakeshore Road West. We are here this evening to request a minor variance for 2 balconies that are proposed for the rear of the home that is currently under construction. I do have a few slides to show you. If you could just flip to the next, it's the aerial photo. Oh, sorry, yeah, that one right there. Thank you.
I don't want to be on there.
Are you on there?
Yeah, I'm on there, but I'm muted.
No, actually, we can hear you, Ms. Falvo.
Oh, okay, give me 1 second. Go right ahead. Sorry.
You can mute yourself now while we listen to the presentation. Okay.
So this is a unique property backing onto Lake Ontario. This is an image from Google Maps, and it shows the home that was recently demolished on the property to make way for the new dwelling. This home had a large balcony on the second story spanning the rear of the house. In addition, the satellite image shows the mature vegetation along both side lot lines. On the right side, or towards the top of the screen, there is a very high cedar hedge that runs along the lot line with 3287 Shelburne Place. There are also mature trees on the left side, the lower side of the home, along the property line with 3304 Lakeshore. It's hard to see from this photo, but both the adjacent homes have second floor balconies, as do many other homes along the lake. The next slide shows the rear of the home that is currently under construction. The photo was taken in the last couple of days, and you can clearly see the larger of the two balconies. This balcony will be accessed off the master bedroom. The second proposed balcony will be located on the left side of the house and will be quite a bit shallower. It will line up with the exterior of the room just to the right and the family room beneath it. So this balcony will not project beyond the rear of the home. The next slide shows a photo again taken in the last couple of days, showing the view from that second floor balcony looking toward 3287 Shelburne Place. As you can see, the cedar hedge is so high and dense, there is complete privacy between those two lots. We also have correspondence from both neighbors at 3287 Shelburne and at 3304 Lakeshore, advising that they have no objections to the balconies. The intent of the zoning bylaw prohibition against second floor balconies is to eliminate overlook conditions and ensure that neighbors have privacy from each other in their yards and in their homes. However, as I have said, this is a very unique property. The proposed balconies will not overlook neighboring yards or create privacy issues for the neighbors. The cedar hedge is high and dense, and it will be impossible for anyone standing or sitting on the balcony, the larger of the two balconies, to see into the yard at 3287 Shelburne. The smaller balcony on the left-hand side will not protrude beyond the rear of the home. There is an accessory structure on the neighbor's lot at 3304 Lakeshore, as well as mature trees along the property line that will prevent overlook onto that property. Finally, both neighbors have advised they have no objection to the balconies, and from this we can assume that they are satisfied that their privacy will be preserved. Because the privacy is being maintained between the subject property and both adjacent properties, it's my opinion that the variance we are requesting maintains the intent of the zoning bylaw and the official plan, is minor in nature, and is desirable for the appropriate development of this lot. I'm happy to answer any questions anybody might have.
Thank you for your submission. Who would like to ask questions of Ms. Rowant at this time? Mr. Talowski, go ahead, sir.
Actually, Madam Chair, a question of staff, if I may. The question is, in the staff report, the focus is on the prohibition. It only applies to the O zones in the town, the prohibition on balconies, which are some of the larger lots in the town of Oakville. And looking at the geographic location of this property, the vegetation, notwithstanding the prohibition, Can you explain what impact you believe allowing these balconies would create in this circumstance?
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. Again, going to the staff report where it speaks to the prohibition in the bylaw, staff do not feel that in this particular instance, and again, across the Suffolk zone, that the intent of the bylaw would be maintained, notwithstanding for this property in particular. If we look at other properties that would potentially have balconies as well, that expansion of balconies in areas where they're prohibited could potentially cause issues and impacts on abutting properties, and that is what staff are apprehensive of in supporting any deviation from built form that is prohibited in the bylaw.
Okay. Further to that, Mr. Trofsky, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I can follow up, it didn't really get an answer to my question. With my belief that the intent of the bylaw is to prevent in privacy situations, do you believe that there will be an impact to privacy if the committee were to approve this variance?
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. I guess in terms of speaking to any vegetation that's screening the neighboring properties, staff have no real control over if those cedar hedges will be maintained in the long term. If there is a point where they're either cut down or removed for any reason, those balconies at that point in time would cause adverse impacts on abutting properties. So that's something that staff can't necessarily control, whereas the bylaw controls the prohibition of the balconies.
Okay. So just as a point of clarity, staff are hedging against future impacts. And further to that, a cascade of potential applications within that area.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair, that would be correct. It may get to a point where if balconies start to be approved that are prohibited, it'll come to a situation where there's neighboring properties where a balcony is approved and then a neighboring property, for example, is refused based on different circumstances and the way that the lots are oriented. So that's why the prohibition is there across the Suffolk zone.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Murray, you had a follow-up question?
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the applicants, I'm wondering, you have indicated 2 letters of support. Can those be emailed to the Secretary Treasurer, or is there any way to show those? I don't see them. And the other part is through you, Madam Chair, to town staff. Is there any history on the approval of the balconies to the east and west abutting this property that you might be able to share with us? I know it's a big ask, but if there's anything, that would be terrific.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair, I can take a look in our database, but those balconies were probably constructed prior to 2014 as identified in the staff report through the development of the Suffolk zone and the prohibition of balconies in the zone. I could take a look, but it might take some time.
And just to speak to the letters of support, they were sent in an addendum today to you, and I believe the agent has actually included them in her presentation as well. If you would like to see them, we can get them up on the screen for you.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Are there any further questions or items of clarification? Ms. Murray?
Just one, Madam Chair, through you to town staff. So based on what town staff have shared with us, the balconies to the east and west on abutting properties predate the Suffolk Zero bylaw. Is that correct?
I think Mr. Hassan is still looking. Yeah.
Yeah, Madam Chair, while I'm looking, that would be correct in that I just checked our Committee of Adjustment data mapping. There's no variances for balconies on the abutting properties. I'm just taking a look to see if I can see potentially when the houses were constructed and the balconies.
Thank you for the research. Madam Chair,
Yes.
one more question. The property was granted site plan approval May 5th, 2020. I might need a little education on this, perhaps maybe from you or from other members, but if site plan approval was given, would it not have caught the balcony?
No, I think it was, and Mr. Hassan specifically states that in his report, where he says during the site plan process, they were notified that the balconies would not be supported.
And yet they were constructed anyways.
Correct.
Got it. It's a big risk.
Perhaps the agent may have something to comment on that.
Hello?
Yes.
Hi. Can I say something? Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. The two balconies that are there, they're actually flat roofs. And on the original drawing, when we applied for the building permit, they are flat roofs. So right now they are still a flat roof. So it's a flat roof over the terrace off the master. And the other side on the left, it's actually a flat roof over the family room. So they're both flat roofs at the moment. So we are applying for a balcony so that we could finish it as a balcony. But they are flat roofs from the original drawings that we got permits for. So they are not balconies at the moment. Okay. And the other comment I should add is that the neighbor on the east side, from where their home is located to the back of the property, we're about 80, 90 feet farther forward towards the lake from the home that's located on the Shelburne Park side. So we are way more forward than that home. So even if some of those trees were to go, let's just say they got struck by lightning, there is a huge distance between our two homes in lengthwise. Okay.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, not a problem. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair, I was able to look at our database and I see a lot of historical building permit information. I just don't have any access to all of the drawings that would have been approved at that time. So I'd probably default to my previous comments that the balconies and the dwellings were all built prior to 2014.
Okay, fair enough. Any further comments or questions or items of clarification? Okay, I see none. We're ready to take the matter into committee. Who would like to move a motion or start the ball rolling on a discussion? Mr. Tarowski, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I'm going to take the contrary view to the staff in this circumstance. Perhaps the different interpretation of intent. I believe the intent of the bylaw is to limit impacts to privacy. The result of that attempt in this case has been the prohibition in certain zones. I don't think the prohibition is the intent. Madam Chair, we don't set precedent application to application. Each one is dealt with in its own very unique circumstances. We can approve one variance and deny variance on the same night based on the design, the impacts that are perceived. So I don't believe an approval of a balcony in a certain circumstance on the lot, which in my opinion is meant for this sort of application. I don't see the the impact. I would also note that in other staff reports, we have had indication from staff because of mature vegetation on the property, they didn't believe there was an impact. So I'm not convinced of Mr. Hassan's argument tonight that the trees could be cut down in this circumstance. We've seen different positions from staff on different applications. So, Madam Chair, I do not believe there's an impact, and I'll be clear, in this situation. I believe the intent is met. I don't believe there's an impact to privacy. So I would also note that the two neighbors on either side who would be impacted, if there are any impacts, are both in support. So I would actually move the application be approved as applied for, finding that it meets the four tests of the Planning Act. I would make that approval conditional on development proceeding in general accordance with the site plans and elevations dated August 20. I assume that's 2020, just says August 20 on the drawings that I'm looking at, and that if an additional permit is required, or amendment to the permit to chimneys and the balconies, that it issue within 2 years.
Very well. Thank you, Mr. Tulowski. Is there a discussion on this recommendation? Ms. Murray?
I would just like to add my further support. While I appreciate and respect the bylaw, we have a unique situation, a unique lakefront lot, unique in that has support from the neighbors, and appears from the photos, which the photos are quite good, and having conducted my site visit today, I would say that the intent of the bylaw, which is to guard people's privacy, is not and does not appear to be in question here, and is not a concern of the neighbor. So I will be voting in favor of this motion.
Very well. Any further comments? Okay, all those in support? Okay, the application has been approved, none opposed.
Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Application CAV 091 of 2020 at 1115 Balmoral Place. Again, the number is 1115 Balmoral Place and CAV 091 of 2020. If you would like to speak to this application, the phone number to call is 905-815-6095, and the phone number is also shared at the live stream page at oakville.ca. Staff will be standing by to take your call, and further instructions will be provided to call back to join the video conferencing. At this time, I see Ms. Villa present. Hello.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Emily Villa, and good evening, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I'm here to represent the homeowners, and it's regarding the proposal to construct a rear one-story porch addition. And as you can see, this site plan here, the application or the request is to reduce the setback to the east. In the back here, you see 3.2 meters, and whereas the minimum is 4.2 meters. We received the planning staff comments, and it's in support of our application. And I agree with the opinion that they find the application satisfying all four tests under the Planning Act, and that the shows that the general intent and purpose of the official plan and zoning bylaw is maintained, and it's in keeping with the character of the neighborhood. Also, the variants are minor in nature and appropriate for the development of the site, as there are no negative impacts to the abutting properties and to the streetscape.
Very well, thank you, Ms. Villa. Ms. McCrae, is there anyone standing by to speak to this application?
Not at this time.
Okay, great. Are there any questions of Ms. Villa at this time or items of clarification? I see none. Okay, since there is no one waiting to speak to the application, Ms. Villa, you're aware of the comments and the conditions that staff have recommended. We're ready to take the matter into committee. Go ahead, Ms. Murray.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Having conducted my site visit and reviewed the applicant's written submission as well as the town's written staff report, which I note is in some support of the minor variance. And thank you for the comments presented by the applicant this evening. I'm prepared to make a motion to approve the application for variance subject to the following conditions: that the rear covered porch be built in general accordance with the submitted site plan dated and elevation drawings dated September 14th, 2020, and that the approval expires 2 years from the date of a decision if the building permit has not been issued. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a discussion on this recommendation? I see none. All those in support? Okay, the application has been approved. None opposed.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night. All right, application CAV 093 of 2020 at 487 Lees Lane. Again, the application is 093 of 2020 at 487 Lees Lane. If you're interested in speaking to this application, the number to call is 905-815-6095. It will also be posted on the live stream page at oakville.ca. Staff are standing by to take your call, and further instructions will be provided to you at that time to join the video conferencing. Who do we have here for this application, Ms. McRae?
Mr. Capper.
Okay.
Good evening, Madam Chair. My name is David Capper with Glenn Schnarr & Associates in Mississauga. For the record, our address. Good evening. Madam Chair, I had prepared a short presentation for this evening. I'm just wondering if the IT colleagues...
Yes, there
it is. Perfect. Thank you. Can everyone see the presentation?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. And do I have control over it, or do I have to?
No, you just have to ask them to next slide.
Okay, if I could please have the next slide. Thank you, Madam Chair. The application before you this evening is for the property located at 487 Lees Lane. This is the subject property that is highlighted in red, and it's just south of Rebecca. If I could get the next slide, please. And there's two variances that are for you this evening. The first variance seeks an increase in the maximum residential floor area. Maximum permitted in this zone is 40%, whereas the applicant is seeking an increase of 1.56%. The actual difference proposed versus permitted is 11.99 square meters or 129 square feet. And there's an additional variance for lot coverage, seeking an increase from the maximum permitted of 35 to the maximum proposed of 36.34, for a difference of 10.3 meters permitted versus proposed, which is 110 square feet. If I could get the next slide, please. And the next one. So this is the proposed site plan, and what I've highlighted here is the two main features that increase the coverage beyond what is permitted on the property. And these are two covered porches, one at the front and one at the back of the property. The front is sort of a covered portico that offers a sheltered entrance into the property, and then obviously the one in the rear is a rear yard amenity space. Next slide, please. Just an actual floor plan that shows the covered porch in the rear and in the front. Next slide, please. In terms of the additional gross floor, residential floor area that's being requested, it's largely contained in the second floor within the building. As noted in the staff report, the applicant has revised the design of the building from the initial discussion with staff in order to provide greater step backs and undulations in each of the building faces. So you can see that sort of in the second story here. And the next slide, please. And that was the front elevation. This is the rear elevation. And again, when we flip to the next slide, we will see how the building massing has been reduced on the second floor. And then final slide is just highlighting on the elevations where the two covered porch, both front and rear areas are shown. Madam Chair, I think that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions should the committee have.
Thank you, Mr. Capper. Are there any items of clarification or questions of Mr. Capper at this time? I see none. Very well. Ms. McRae, is there anyone standing by to speak to this application?
Not at this time.
Very well. And we can take the matter into committee. Go ahead, Mr. Hardcastle. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Having reviewed the materials and heard the deputation of the agent and undertaken my site visit, I am satisfied that the requested two variances for residential floor area and lot coverage conform to the four tests of the Act. Noting that the building is designed in a very sensitive way, as Mr. Capper had noted, to reduce the visual massing with on the front facade and the way it transitions to both side yards. So I'll put forward a motion of approval subject to two standard conditions, those being that the dwelling be built in general accordance with the submitted site plan and elevation drawings dated August 26, 2020, and that the approval expire within 2 years of the date of the decision and that it has been issued. I would note that there was no one present during the hearing to provide deputation, and there were no letters of received in advance of the hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Hardcastle. Is there a discussion on this recommendation? I see none. All those in support? Okay. The application has been approved, none opposed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good night.
Good night. Mr. Talowski, I think Ms. McRae will put you on pause, mute, however we deal with this one. Very well. Okay, so a question to town staff before I announce the application. Can we take the three next applications in one? They are applying for the same variance, or would you prefer that we deal with them individually? Ms. McRae, Mr. Hassan?
Oh, sir, I didn't know whether you were talking to the town planner or myself.
Oh, sorry, both of you.
Certainly, if the committee would like to hear them all as one, that's absolutely your prerogative. There would have to be 3 motions and 3 reading of the conditions. But if you want the agent to go through 3 presentations first and then take it into committee, that's certainly, you can do that.
Okay, perfect. Is everyone okay with that? Just a show of hands, okay, or nods? Very good. All right. McEwen, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Good. So, I mean, we're all familiar with the applications. We're familiar with the variance that's being asked for, the reduced setback for the private garage. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it is the same variance that you're applying for all 3 blocks.
That's correct.
Okay, so I'll let you go through the presentation for the benefit of the public to see. Sure. And then we will deal with them in terms of the motions and approval itemized, but we'll hear them all as one block.
Okay, perfect. I'm here today on behalf of our client, Hallett Homes. I was before you back in September for the end units of these blocks. Mm-hmm. Shortly after that, we were notified by staff that based on the interpretation of the definition of a private garage, We would need additional variances for the VH02 and VH03 models, which are highlighted. These models have a driveway that's partially covered by habitable space, which is considered a porte cochere. And under the definition of private garage, porte cochere is included. So technically, we require a minimum setback of 5.7 meters to this portion, whereas we're proposing 3 meters. We are providing a setback of 5.7 meters to the functioning private garage, which will allow for one car to be parked in the garage and another on the driveway, which meets the intent of the bylaw. The elevations have been approved by urban design and the control architect. I'd be happy to answer any other questions. I've included other images should there be any kind of technical questions.
But all the main blocks are configured in exactly the same way, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. I don't see everybody on the panel, but I'm gonna open the mics and let everyone speak. Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions on Ms. McEwen? And at any point in time, if we want to, we can go back to her presentation if there are any items of clarification. Okay, I see none. Very well. Ms. McRae, has anyone called in to speak to this application?
Not at this time.
Okay, very well. Then I believe we are ready to take the matter into committee. And who would like to move a motion? And if you do, then I will expect you to move all three of them, one after the other. So that Ms. Murray, go ahead. She doesn't seem to be phased at all, so go ahead.
Madam Chair, through you, I'd like to move a motion, an omnibus motion, if that is appropriate. Having conducted my site visit, reviewed the applicant's written submission, as well as the town's written staff report, of which I note is in support of this minor variance. I'm prepared, again, as I said, to make an omnibus motion to approve the applications for CAV 094, application CAV 095, application CAV 096.
But here's the thing, I thought I was clear. We have to
motion for each?
Yes, we do. And you have to read the conditions for you. That's why I said if you do it for one, you're gonna have to do it for three.
Okay, so it will not be an omnibus.
No
motion.
But I loved hearing the word omnibus, so I let you have it. You know, I was like, okay.
All right. Motion to approve the application for CAV 094 is subject to the following conditions: that the private garage porte cochere be built in general accordance with the submitted site plans and elevation drawings submitted with the application, and that the approval expires 2 years from the date of the decision if a building permit has not been issued.
Very well. Is there a discussion on this recommendation?
I would just
all those in support? Sorry.
Sorry,
ahead,
I would
Ms.
just
McRae.
like to note that there was no written or oral submissions received from the public. If we could note that as well for all three applications, that would be great.
Sure, thank you, and accepted.
We could also note that there are no neighbors. This is a new development.
Okay. All right, so that's duly noted for application CAV 094, which is the one that is presently on the table. All those in support under the here set conditions. Okay, the application has been approved, none opposed. On to the next one for CAV 095 of 2020, and that's block 461. Go ahead, Ms. Murray.
Madam Chair, having conducted my site visit and reviewed the applicant's written submission as well as the town staff's written report, which I note is in support of, I'm satisfied that the minor variance application meets all four tests under the Planning Act. I'm prepared to make a motion to approve the minor variance subject to the following conditions. Those conditions are that the private garage porte cochere be built in general accordance with the submitted site plans and elevation drawings submitted with the application, and that the approval expires 2 years from the date of a decision if a building permit is not issued.
Very well, thank you. And I'm assuming there's no discussion on this recommendation. Okay, all those in support? Okay, the application has been approved, none opposed. And the final and last one is CV 096 of 2020, and that's block 462.
One more time. Madam Chair, having conducted my site visit, reviewed the applicant's written submission as well as the town's written staff report, which I note is in support of the minor variance. I am prepared to make a motion to approve the application for the variance. Subject to the following conditions: that the private garage porte cochere be built in general accordance with the submitted site plans and elevation drawings submitted with the applications, and that the approval expires 2 years from the date of the decision if a building permit has not been issued. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Murray. I'm sorry we have to read them all 3 times, but it is our bylaw. All those in support of this recommendation, and I'm assuming there's no further discussion. Okay. Your application has been approved, none opposed.
Great.
Thank you, Ms. McEwen. We appreciate it. All right, have a good night.
You as well.
Okay, we would like to bring Mr. Talowski back before we confirm our minutes. Oh, here he is. Very well. Did you have a nice break? We have minutes to confirm. Who would like to move the minutes? Ms. Murray, thank you. Motion to adjourn. Mr. Hardcastle, thank you.
Sorry, can we just have the date of the minutes read
Yes,
out?
it's September the 29th, 2020.
Thank you.
Is there anything else? We are adjourned at 8:02 p.m.